As I drove here this morning, I don't believe in coincidences, and I didn't believe that this talk today is a coincidence. When it was planned months ago, I had no idea what kind of energy I would be driving. Just a little bit about angels with me. Probably 5 years ago, I would never do this talk, because angels to me were kind of the Hay House marketing, Doreen Virtue, angel cards, and all of that, and I was just not impressed. And I recognized it made her the #1 selling author in Hay House, but to me they were just this kind of material thing that I didn't understand very much. And about 5 years ago, out of the archives of Unity, I saw a flyer of a program that was put on at Unity of Dallas. And their testimonials were incredible, and it was done, I can't remember, in the late 1990s or early 2000s. And it was put on by two people, and the name of the weekend was Mystery School of Angels. And I was intrigued by that, and I started to do some research, because the testimonials were amazing what was happening to some of the folks of Dallas. And the gentleman and the woman who did that, I'm going to show you their book, because we do have their book available now in the bookstore, wrote a book called The Angels Within Us. And it was the beginning of my journey, my spiritual journey, with the angels within us. And it began to make more sense all the time. And the last 3 Sundays, I shared with you my journey in universal love. And part of that journey came out of a relationship that I had built with one of the angels, which I'm going to introduce you to today. So in those 5 years, my whole thinking has changed completely. My mind has opened up to the possibility of unlimited possibility. I think that's what the quantum field is. And for me, angels that didn't mean a whole lot began to show up and mean something a whole lot more. So we're going to share that, as I always say. What works for you, pick it up and take along. What doesn't, let it be. So what did Charles say about angels? He said a couple things very interesting. The quickening thought of God appearing in form of light or divine intelligence, intuition, understanding. Charles often needs some 2019 interpretation, right? What in the world is he talking about? And what he's saying here is this is a spiritual form or energy that's in you and me. And it connects us to divine intention, intelligence, intuition, and understanding. Like a helper kind of thing. So I'm going to give you my rendition today, because I don't know, I couldn't do a whole lot with that. But when I continued with Charles, he said this: it's a projection into consciousness, whose, yours, and mine. A spiritual idea directed from the fountainhead, Jehovah. So what he's saying here is that it's a spiritual idea, a spiritual power, a spiritual force that we have access to. Pretty amazing when you start to think about it. And that's when I started to get intrigued. It was like, okay, you've got my interest. How do I begin to work with this and bring it into, because I'm the how-to guy, I got to figure out how do we do this. Because those definitions are a little abstract for me. Here's the book, The Angels Within Us. It's John Randolph Price and his wife Jan. And in the late 1990s and early 2000s, they did all of the big Unity churches all over. I don't know if they ever came to the East Coast or not. Has anyone ever been to one of their seminars? Because John has transitioned about a year ago. And I was right at the place where I was reaching out to him. I sent an email. And I never heard back, and about 3 weeks later, I just thought, you know what, I better check. And he had transitioned about the time that I had sent an email. So we didn't connect on the physical, but I have enjoyed his work. And he did go on to write another book about the angel power within us. But this was kind of what they put this whole mystery school together, and had done all the unities around the country. Cecilia does have it in the bookstore. I will tell you, if you want to study it, it's pretty intense, and it's pretty broad in what it teaches. So as anything else that I do, I always want to find the context of where does all this fall in human consciousness. Because as you know, my belief is that we're evolving consciously. We're evolving in spirit. And that's how I look at the Bible. Genesis to Revelation is nothing but a documentation of human consciousess evolving. So I began to look at that, and where this original idea came from is these 22 causal powers. Causal being a power or energy to cause, not effect. So it goes way back. It goes way back to the mystery schools, the wisdom schools of Egypt, which, remember, that's where Abraham and Moses were trained. And in there, it was seen in the Egyptian hieroglyphics, and you'll see these 22, at that point in time, they were called other than angels. Continued on through the Jewish mysticism and the Kabbalah. The Kabbalah talks a lot about these 22 causal energies. They don't call them energies, they are angels. They give them different Jewish names for each of them, but again, it's 22, which I want you to see that theme that has run through the whole history of human consciousness. In Hindu, it's called devas. There's 22 devas is another name for these same powers. And at the Great Pyramid, there's a tablet of Isis, which is where Plato was initiated into the higher intelligence, the higher wisdom. So you see, this has gone on for a long time. And what John Randolph Price did is he said, wait a minute, there's a connection here between angels and the concept in the Judeo-Christian concept and these 22 causal powers. For those in astronomy, you have 12 signs of the zodiac, the 8 planets, the sun and the moon equals 22. So this theme happens over and over and over again. And he took it and began to ask for guidance for the angels that were in alignment with the truth of the causal powers. Looking for that power that can create cause, not the effect. The effect is what we see in the physical, but what's happening in the subjective or in the spiritual. And the last piece is, some of you studied Joseph Campbell's work in archetypal energy. There's the same thing in alignment there. Deepak says here, the use of archetypes is also another way to create change within our own consciousness, our own being. So very, very interesting to see how we line up. With this particular book, you will see 22 angels. And the 22 angels that correlate with all these different causal powers that have been through our evolution for a long time. So what did the Bible say then? So that's my next two. I'm going to go to, well, in the Old Testament, in Psalm it said, for he shall give his angels charge to keep you safe, to keep you on the path, to keep you on your ways. Well, this was so new to me that there was helpers that I could go to. I don't know about you, but there's times in the spiritual journey it seems a little lonely. You know, you're asked to be doing some things that most of the people around you aren't doing. And it's like, well, how do I fit this all in with everything that's going? Because we know over and over again, we're told no matter who the teacher is, hearing, doing. And what I began to understand is that these angels help us in the transition from hearing to doing, if we open up to the energy. Like anything else in our journey, as we believe, so it is to us. If you have a belief as I did, angels didn't exist for me up until 5 years ago. As I began to open up to the belief that, wow, I can reach out, and there is some help out there, my whole thinking began to change and my experience changed. So that was in the Old Testament. In the New Testament it says, are not all angels ministering spirits sent to serve you? And it says here the word is salvation. What is salvation? Salvation means that you're in alignment with the I am within you. You're in the divine within you, the Christ within you. So here again, in the New Testament, it showed up again, that they are ministering spirits, not beings. Right? I mean, we've worked a lot to move from God being a being, you know, the big super duper Santa Claus in the sky, to understanding that it's all within us, so are the angels. That's what I love about the title of this book, The Angels Within Us. And as we begin, and that's where I had the problem in the beginning about the angel cards and all that, because it was more about beings outside of me, and I just couldn't square it up, how it worked within me. But it's in our consciousness, it's in our being that these ministering spirits show up and can be helped. So there's basically, well, there's lots of different kinds of angels if you want, but basically in the Bible there was three kinds. Archangels, probably all of you have heard of archangels and the different names. Where did that come from? Well, it came from the book of Enoch. Now, Enoch was the great-grandfather of Noah. But Enoch's book got knocked out of the Bible around 1684 by the Vatican. We don't really know why, except it had to deal with angels, which, you know, if you really kind of got this, that they're in your consciousness and they're here to help you, you may not need to go to see the priest in the church so much, I'm thinking. But in 1684, I believe it is, or 48, I'm not sure, one of those in 1600, the Vatican knocked out another 14 books. And I think this was one of them. But what's so interesting there is in this book, in chapter 20 of Enoch, it says there's 7 archangels. Each of them has a name. And I picked one here as Rapha, which is Jewish for doctor. So Raphael is one of the archangels, is an archangel of healing. So I don't have this space today to go through all of those, but you can study these 7 archangels, and they're a hierarchy. It just seems to be set up. But each one of the different types of angels have special jobs to do. And there's those, you can study those if you want and take it a little bit further. Then there were seraphims. The seraphs were in Job, is where they show up. Seraphim is plural of seraphs. And their job, again, was to bring forth certain energy, certain knowledge. And then the third kind that really showed up was cherubims, which is again plural of cherubs. Now, cherubims, as you can see here, when they were nomadic people, the Jews, the Holy of Holies, which inside the temple, was in the Ark of the Covenant, which this is a picture of one. And the 2 cherubims sat on top of this to protect God, which is kind of an interesting concept. When, for me, God is omnipotent, all-powerful. I don't know why he needs 2 cherubims to keep them safe inside that box. But it was part of their tradition, and it was part of the process of these angels. So again, there's many things written in the histories about angels, but those are the 3 major categories that we can look at. Angels aren't in heaven, they're on earth, but not everyone is able to see them. And my approach to this is we have seers and we have feelers. Some people don't see, but they feel the energy. It's just as powerful. And some people get hung up. It's like, well, I didn't see that angel, but I felt that presence. That's good enough for me. But here's my take on these. The angels are the ministering spirits that are given to connect the 4th dimension with the 3rd that we live in. They're kind of straddle the 4th dimension and the 3rd dimension. Because as we begin to really understand that what God is all, in the 4th dimension, it's a bit impersonal, right? Like the sun. The sun shines on everyone, quote, good or bad. Or the rain falls on everyone, good or bad. So that impersonal piece of the 4th dimension, or this source, or whatever words you use for God, I see the angels as kind of having 1 foot in that dimension and 1 foot in the 3rd dimension. And they can come to us, we can call them to us, and they can help us make the transition. And I introduced this term last week, to help us to double think. We need help in that. because it's not something we do naturally. And what do I mean by double think? It's not double talk. We know a bunch of people who double talk. Double think is the ability to be able to think in the subjective or the fourth dimension and hold the third dimension of what we see happening around us in the world. And it's part of, remember how it's divvied up in the Bible, of this world versus my kingdom. Well, I believe the angels are ministering spirits that allow us to help to double think, double see, to be able to see what's happening on the TV and still hold light and love. I don't know about you, but I need help doing that some days more than others. And they're here, I believe, to help us keep truth of our being, keep truth of the one power, the one presence, while we see other things going on around us. This whole notion that what we see going around us in our lives, called illusions, doesn't work for me. It looks and feels real to me. And to call it an illusion does not work. To me, that's denial. Put my head in the sand. That's not what we're called to do. We're called to be the light of the world, in the world, not of it. And I think these ministering spirits are here to guide us and help us to do that. Angels are not physical beings. I look at them, this is my take, they're vortex of spiritual energy. Some people see them, some people feel them, but they're around us if you believe it, number one, and number two, if you reach out and say, and that's what I did 5 years ago. I began to reach out more and more all the time and find that they can help us if we're willing to do that. But like anything else in the spiritual realm, we have to move to a place that's in alignment with the light and the love, not of what we see going on around us. So that's the dropping of the judgment, that's the letting go of the unforgiveness, will align us with this energy and this force that is available to us to be able to do the truth that we believe is true for us. Charles went on to say this, the job of the angels is to guard, to direct, and to redeem the natural force of the body-mind which have us looking into the future of the entire person. Again, it's in spirit, it's in consciousness, but it's there for us to go to the next step. They're there for us to go to a higher place. One of the questions that I ask when I work with the angels is, what can I do to help you take me closer to perfection? Not what you can do for me. What do I need to do for me to go to the next step of perfection? And for me, that's universal love. So what do I need to work on to make the changes in my consciousness that opens me up to that perfection that is I think our goal for all of us as we go through life. This is in Exodus, see, again in the Old Testament, I am sending an angel ahead of you. So if you have any fear, anxiety, worry of the future, you forgot this. There was already a spiritual vortex of energy going ahead of you. What's our job then? Trust the process. Trust the divine plan. That all of this has been put in place, and it's our job to walk the path, the lit path, where we already have this energy, this spiritual energy ahead of us that guides us through. He said many times, if you allow me to, I will straighten the path instead of all the sideway curves that are available. So the last 3 weeks we talked about universal love. This is the angel of unconditional love and freedom that I've been working with. And for me, it's, John Randolph Price calls it the master angel. There's many other names that have been given in other religions for it. But to me, this is the number one for me, is universal love, and how can I do it at a better level? It's what I work for every day. And this angel will come to you. It came to me. And as I began to have conversations, I've been given things that I need to look at and ways to move forward in this whole notion of unconditional love. This was a download that John Randolph Price received from the angel of unconditional love and freedom. And when I read this for the first time, it's like, that's what I want. I got it. No matter who you are or what you have done, I love you. I love you as myself with no strings attached. You are free. And I have no concerns about you, for you are the holy light of God and you possess the kingdom. We have no obligation to one another except to give and receive love. And through this love, we rise above our personal needs, our selfish desires, radiating out love universally for the good of all. And that just hit a heart chord for me. You know, it's like, that's what I want. I want that. What do I need to do to get there? And that has been my ongoing conversation with this angel who keeps guiding me to open my mind and open my spirit and open my consciousness to look at love, universal love, at a different level. So I continue to ask every day, what's mine to do? What more do I have to understand? And this is something that I've just been given in the last month or so. Universal love of others is shown by me not judging the appearance, but judging righteously. It's how we demonstrate universal love. Not to get caught up in the ego, personality, or the appearance, but to recognize who they truly are. And it's in that recognition of truth that they are the God within, they are the divine, they are the Christ, they are the Atman, they are the light, they are the love, is the way I can show universal love to all people. Fairly simple. Not easy to do. At least not for me. But it goes counter against everything that we've been trained to do as separate personalities or ego from source. How can I show universal love back to the source, to God? I do it by not seeing any other power but one. Don't go to duality. Don't go to good and bad. Don't go to evil and great. One power, one presence. And that's the way I can show universal love to my Creator, my source, by not deviating from one power. I can't tell you how many times a day I talk about another power. And as I've opened my consciousness to that, it really has waken up in me how much of the time I've spent in my life talking about more than one power. And thirdly, how do I love myself? Again, it's not getting caught up in the appearances, in the human level. No matter what happens, going back to who I am, what's the truth of my being? I'm the light and love of the divine, and not getting caught up in all of that stuff. It requires the ability to double think and double see. You have to be able to see the vision while you're seeing the humanness happen right in front of you. Very complex, not complex, very difficult for me to continue on a consistent basis. I can get it when I come right out of meditation. I'm like, oh yeah, I got this. And a half an hour later, I'm like sucked back into the duality or seeing more than one presence of power. Energy follows thought. If we maintain universal love at all levels, we call that the universal love thought form that we create, what can come to you but love? It's the only thing you will experience in your life as you move your consciousness to a higher and higher level of the universal love. Because we create from our consciousness, And where we hold in our consciousness comes back to us. And as we hold more and more of this, to me, this is what the journey, the spiritual journey is at this point in time. Spiritual fulfillment, to me now, feels filled full of universal love. And the more I can stay here, the more I'm going to attract that into my life, and not the other. What do you do when appearances arrive, whether I created them or you created them or someone else creates them? They're going to show up. They're going to show up probably 5 minutes after your meditation and prayer time. What do we do with that? Go inside, connect with the universal love. We just did 3 weeks of that. And as you get more and more connected with the universal love within, you begin to watch those things that aren't a part of that begin to just fall away, to resist not. And finally in Psalms, for he shall give us angels charge over you to keep you safe, to keep you abundant, to keep you loving in all your ways. The angel of unconditional love and freedom. Are you ready to meet her today? Let's meet her. Let's go to silence. Take a couple deep breaths. Spirit of the living God within us, our precious holy self, we totally and completely forgive ourselves for every thought, feeling, word, and deed of the past. We release everything to you. All self-condemnation, all guilt, and all fear. And we close the door on all that was yesterday in the past. As we forgive ourselves, we know that we are forgiving all others. For we are everyone, and everyone is us. And through this cleansing action of forgiveness, we are all wonderfully free. If we see anything in our world that's out of harmony, we know that we have simply forgotten our true nature. We have given our ego the authority to think for us. And its thoughts are fearful and repressive, causing us to judge people and conditions. As we do, we pass sentence on ourselves and bind conditions in our lives no more. The time has come to break the chains and be free. Blessed Spirit, we hold nothing back. We give you our emotions to feel through, our minds to fill with your thoughts, our eyes to see your vision, our mouths to speak only truths, and our bodies to be the vehicle for your action. And if there is anything within our consciousness unknown to us that is not in tune with your holy mind, we ask that you remove it now. We are ready to be clean and clear in perfect harmony with I am, our divine consciousness. Knowing that love is the first principle which reveals and sustains all reality, we We ask you to guide us to the angel of unconditional love and freedom deep within our consciousness, that we may free the hand of God to do its perfect work. Some of you will see, some of you feel the presence guiding you through a long, winding corridor. Keep walking towards the dim light ahead. And as you approach the ever-growing light, ask it to please take form. Angel of unconditional love and freedom, we have asked that all our false beliefs, fears, and feelings of guilt be dissolved. And from this moment forward, we will do our very best not to judge by appearances in the outer world. We will replace all imperfect images in mind with the perfect patterns. And we will dwell on these truths of our being until the full, glorious manifestation is revealed. It is our intention to do everything we can to free you to be all that you were created to be. The master of the angelic realm, the shining one whose light appears before every gate, endowing each angel with the will of God, the love of Christ, and the action of the Holy Spirit. We ask you now, what else can we do in our daily life to assist you in your work of manifesting perfection? Listen now as though you were talking with a close friend, and later recorded in your spiritual journal what you were told. All that is within us is now perfect harmony. The divine patterns are securely in place. And the angel of unconditional love and freedom is ministering over us. Our lives are good. So very good. And it is so. Namaste.